was broadening. She had hardly left the corral when Mike grabbed the horseshoe latch again. "By golly, look here!" Hugh examined the shoe. The inside edge, through years of wear, had been honed like a knife. Now that edge was splattered with brown, dried blood. "That ain't steer blood," he frowned. "Somebody unlocked that gate in a hurry, or else somebody didn't savvy to yank the shoe off by the chain. But who in this outfit don't know about it?" The yard gate banged, and they looked back to see Barney Town standing by the harness shed. He stood there, short legs outspread, bald head swinging like that of an angry bull, bloodshot eyes sweeping the empty corral. It took him several scowling seconds to analyze the trouble. Then he let out a roar. "Talbot! Where in tarnation are the cattle?" Mike took a deep breath and went back to him. "Down by the creek. They busted out during the night." Town breathed heavily through distended nostrils. The flush of his red features, vein-shot by 20 years of tippling, deepened while he sought strong-backed words to carry the weight of his fury. "Busted out, hell! Why don't you admit you forgot to close the gate?" "Because I didn't," Mike replied doggedly. "Now there's no use getting your blood hot. Mark Dennis ain't due for an hour. We'll have them back before then." Town's lips had a sour, sadistic twist. "Here's one to raise your own temperature on. If Dennis gets wise and clocks me 5% for his damn 12-hour shrinkage, you're done. I ain't hoorawing. Talbot, maybe you figure you're the brains of this layout, but maybe you're going to find out who does the hiring and firing hereabouts in case you forgot." One of the wranglers brought up Barney Town's horse. He swung up heavily and, not looking back, rode off. His fists nodded. Mike stared after him. Then he turned on his heel and went to saddle his pony. Hugh held his temper until they were riding out of the yard. He rode with an easy slouch, but under the old jumper his body was stiff as a whipstock. Then he said, his eyes bright with a hard shine, "He's asked for it once too often, Mike. We're getting out. To hell with this lousy iron. We can make a heap more money glory-holing like we used to, and not have to take his guff." Mike's quick glance was testy. "That's foolishness. Man's liable to say most anything when he's tapering off a 6-day drunk. But when he's drunk 5 days out of 7, you finally get your belly full. We've had 10 years of it, and that's enough. You pulled the snake track right out of bankruptcy court when you first signed on, but Town's kept it in the red ever since. Not that I haven't asked it 100 times before, but what have we got to gain by staying?" "Give 'em an inch, boy," Mike muttered. "If I was to quit 'em, the iron'd go under in 6 months. "We've given him miles already. If he drinks the snake track onto the rocks, it isn't our fault. I've heard Town get the credit for being a top-hand cowman too long. They say he can bring a weanling to prime on a handful of corn and a bucket of water. That he savvies rodeo stock better than any man in New Mexico. The whiskey-logged cull. When they say those things, they're talking about Mike Talbot. All Town savvies is to pop a cork." Mike made no answer. Hugh knew that, as usual, he was getting nowhere. "At least," he grumbled, "you could have told him the truth about the gate. That Lass left it open." "We don't know that. You can forget about her being the last one in." Mike's words crackled. Where Lass was concerned, he was as fiercely protective as an old mother grizzly. Hugh shrugged. His glance went off across the billowing, tree-dotted rangeland, the blue of far distances shining in his eyes. "Remember Calico Town, Mike?" he said after a moment. "Deadwood, Leadville, Tombstone. We had fun those days, glory-holing around wherever the sign was right, scratching and played-out claims for bacon and beans, a little silver here, a little gold there." Mike's scowl did not mask the longing in his face for those unforgotten, carefree times, but he shook his head doggedly. "As far as I'm concerned, glory-holing is all a played-out claim. We had 7 years of it, and we ended up as broke as we started." Just as broke, Hugh thought, but not half as happy. Tragedy had brought them together, and he considered it tragic for Mike that they had ever settled on the snake track. The last 10 years had tucked many a wrinkle into the tough skin of his face. Hugh had watched him grow heavier and solid in his joints, and his short, stiff hair turn iron gray, had seen his vitally blue eyes